Greetings everybody, and welcome to this presentation on the importance of water safety for international student well-being. My name is Kurt Cordes. I'm the Projects Director for Enigmatic Global and also the Project Lead for the Global Swim Project. I'm here at Toyohama Aquatic Center. This is the home of the Tauranga Water Safety Training Hub, where we keep some equipment where we can do water skills training, water safety training for everything from children straight through to adults, including international students. A little bit about me, my background. Personally, I'm a little bit of a genetic collision with genes coming from Africa, Europe, and India, colliding in the Caribbean with my parents. And my parents immigrated to Canada, where I was born and raised. And very quickly, in my early 20s, I moved away from Canada and have been living globally ever since. I've lived in 5 different countries of residence, and New Zealand being my 5th country of residence. I moved here for my wife and my two stepchildren, and this is my home now. Professionally, I have a lot of background in aquatics, about 25 years of experience, originally in scuba diving, sailing, free diving, a lot of open ocean type stuff, and then later on moving into swim teaching instructor, lifeguarding instructor, and those were mainly focused on water safety training. From an educational background, I do have TESOL qualifications, and I've worked with international students for many years, focusing on experiential and transformative learning mainly, rather than the grammar of English, but also program design, curriculum development, and focus on young adults specifically. I do work with all the ages, from kindy straight through to adult, but young adult is kind of where I like to be. When I first came to New Zealand, trying to figure out what I was going to do, one of the big gaps I saw was the idea that there wasn't a lot of water safety training for diverse communities, and specifically for ethnic communities. And this is kind of where I found my start for water safety. And that's how the Global Swim Project was born. So within those early years, one of the first calls I got was from a guy, Huy Vu, which many of you know. He was applying for a grant for a water safety project for University of Waikato called Water Safe Waikato. And he really wanted to support international students in water safety. And I'll stop very quickly to recognize that Huy passed away recently, which many of you know, and I know many of you know him much better than I do. I offer my condolences to those who knew him well. And I really wish I did know him better, but I'm going to talk from what I did know about him. And what I did know about him was very clearly his passion for supporting his students. So that was part of his passion there in supporting his students in water safety. And the reason that he did it, and I'll quote his words from a letter that I got from him. In the years leading up to 2019, the University of Waikato lost 2 students to drowning at locations within our region, and that's Waikato. This highlighted the importance of building water safety skills to emerging and migrant communities in New Zealand. So from that quote, you can really see that Huy was really devoted to this. His staff was devoted to this. And one thing that I did pick up even from them not talking about it was there was obviously went through a lot of trauma and a lot of stress themselves trying to deal with the situations that they dealt with these students who unfortunately passed away from drowning. And they really never wanted it to happen again. So that was kind of the foundation of this project. The funding was granted. I recognized Bianca Nicole, who was part of the International Student Services Office at the time. She was on board, as well as Tina Van Duren, now at the University of Otago, but was with the University of Waikato at the time, and she's a researcher in motor skills and does focus on aquatics and water safety somewhat. There are 3 aspects to this project that were really unique that I found. One was a research aspect that Dr. Van Duren was doing pre and post data, not only from skills development with cameras under the water and actually analyzing whether there was skills improvement, but also from a survey point of view and looking at whether there was potential for behavioral change or attitude change. The community-focused model was really unique to this one as well, and that was something that I had learned from my work here in Tauranga and Western Bay of Plenty, that we needed a more community approach. So there was a community approach to treating the students as a community, and how could we improve the community support, not just the individual development of water safety training. And also the collaborative approach of the team, which I loved. And that really was led by Huy. We didn't just silo everything and I did the water safety and Tina did the research and just the focus. It was everybody working together. And we really did sit down, talk about everything, collaborate. We would try and be at all the things. Huey would try and be there. Bianca would be on site to help us out. It really was a collaborative effort on all levels, which really led to, I think, the benefits that we showed. One of the key challenges, I'll highlight the buy-in. Students are busy. Students, this is not the top of their agenda. So it was really, how do we actually impart to these students that New Zealand is about the water. Water is part of New Zealand culture, and that's an important thing for them to understand, but also for them for inclusion within community as well. So really quickly, some of the results, the pre and post data, though not publishable research, was definitely indicative and indicated improvements in their basic skills in the pool, and just that 1 or 2 sessions that we did, as well as awareness and behavior improvements as well of their knowledge. But more than those kind of results, it was the stories that came out of it. The things that impacted me, watching students who were adults who had obviously faced trauma with the water, students who had lost siblings in their home country, were purposely coming and trying to get into the water and conquering their fear, shaking and then overcoming that and having that sense of accomplishment and that sense of empowerment afterwards really impacted me personally. The fact that the program was for swimmers and non-swimmers. It wasn't just, oh, well, you can't be in the water, because we really do recognize that the waters of New Zealand are different than other places. I recognize that the waters of New Zealand are different. So that was a really big thing, to include everyone and be adaptive to something and really give to what they needed. And also the students themselves having those new experiences. The fact that we had the trip to the beach, that some of them were touching sand for the first time ever. And it was really, really rewarding for me. I think it was rewarding for the team, but definitely rewarding for the students in that respect. One of the big things was the Water Watchers program, the idea that we had a sequence. So we started with an orientation, moved to a dry program, moved to a wet program. So there was chance for buy-in, there was chance to develop relationships with the students. And it went through to the point where some of the students really wanted to help more. So almost like a first aid training type program, they went, they learned more, and they were able to support their fellow students. The following year, unfortunately it was canceled due to COVID, but there was a trip to the beach with the new intake. The students who had done the Water Watchers program were asked to go on the trip specifically to be peer support for the other students because they had been through this program. So overall, I mean, that's a lot of stuff, but it really boils down to the idea of understanding, respect, and community. And this picture I have up over here is really the beach program. And the idea that in 14-degree water on that day, with students who, some of them never touched salt water before, everybody went in. Everybody went in that water because of the support that they had developed around each other. Other thing to mention is the Global Swim Pro part of it. So we had piloted the Global Swim Pro. Unfortunately, again, it was canceled due to COVID, but we got through most of it. And there are 2 students piloting it, one from Waikato, one from Toyohomai here. And the idea was that we could actually encourage, take students and train them to support the Global Swim project at their school, that they could deliver to their fellow students, because these are students who actually had some aquatic background. So again, there's opportunities not only for skills development, for competence development, for really showing what they can do. All of this was part of the program that originally came from a development here in New Zealand. Really interesting, as I start looking internationally, we see these things echoed everywhere from the States to the UK to Australia. And just this year, there was a publication from Life Saving Victoria for their multicultural program that they've been running for years and years, and they've had a huge amount of people move through it, mainly focused on multicultural new immigrants and refugees. But the well-being output from that program was incredible, and it goes well beyond the idea of water safety, which is important in and of itself. It went to health of the students. It went to social inclusion, social cohesion, reducing racism, all of these things that we really hit from a well-being perspective, and there's a lot of chance to actually include that in what we're doing. So I very quickly kind of resonate that, or not resonate that, but equate that to the International Student Wellbeing Strategy here in New Zealand. And the ideas of economic well-being, education, health and well-being, and inclusion all can be targeted from an aquatics program, and specifically a water safety program, such as the Global Swim Project. So since then, I've been working with others. We've been working over the past couple of years, even through COVID, specifically on international students. We've been doing a lot of work with the local programs here in Tauranga and Western Bay of Plenty. So I have worked with, again, University of Waikato, Toyo Homai, Aspire 2, Employ NZ, all working with their students, and from all levels, from new immigrants and people who are at the Polytech level, straight through to master's students who are coming in at University of Waikato. I did a program with the Coastal Field Marine Sciences program here at University of Waikato. And a lot of the new students coming in there from international backgrounds do need a program like this to give them a heads up of water safety. I've also done online work, so there were times when we needed to reach a wider group. So with Aspire 2, we piloted a program where we actually did a Zoom presentation for their students. But the big thing is that their instructors and the people who led the international students groups were on the Zoom with me. It wasn't just me presenting and delivering. It really was a collaborative effort, which goes back to, again, that magic point of collaboration. So again, I really encourage you to look at that precedent and of the Water Safe Waikato program, and to look at what we're doing with international students and really embrace that, because the well-being aspects are there, but also really I encourage you to think about the fact that we're going into a really interesting year this year. New students are coming in for the first time in a while. Our systems are stretched. Our water safety systems are stretched. Hiring for lifeguards, both surf lifesaving and pool lifeguards, are stretched. And not saying that they're not going to be able to deliver, but I think looking at last year, at the horrible year that we had in drowning, it is especially important this year that we buy in, and it's especially important that I'm asking you to buy into the water safety narrative this year. And even if you can't do a more robust program, doing a more targeted program, but not just a tick box program, is what I encourage. Really looking at how do we transform, how do we do a transformative impact on the students coming in, so that they really do understand that the waters of New Zealand and how we use the water in New Zealand is different than many places in the world, and we need to be aware of that. So a couple of things to leave you with. I'm here as the Global Swim Project to help. Also, if you're in the Auckland area, I encourage you to contact Drowning Prevention Auckland. Their program are one of the few in New Zealand that do have devoted people who are experts in the area of ethnic inclusion. Overall, in New Zealand, we do have a lack of that expertise across the board in aquatics, and that's just a fact. So what I encourage you to do is really do contact your local provider for aquatics, but I encourage you to be part of the program. I encourage you, like I described with Water Safe Waikato, to be there and to be present and to contribute. And because you know best what is for your students. You know how to talk to them. You know those styles. A lot of aquatics professionals do not. And it takes that teamwork of aquatic knowledge and the knowledge of how to work with ethnically diverse groups to be able to deliver in an impactful and transformative way. And I really encourage you to do that. And again, I'm here to help. And I encourage you to really open that door for your students to all the richness that can come from getting involved in aquatics in New Zealand. So thank you very much for your time. And again, I'll put my contact information up. Please do contact me if you have any questions. Thank you.